Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I really hope America is watching this hearing. I've said repeatedly about those dinners we had with President Obama that if Americans could have been a fly in the wall, they would have been heartened by those discussions. I think they should be heartened by this one as well. I think there's a genuine interest here in solving these problems. I think that's a good thing. Now, I appreciate that Senator Sessions pointed out that I have a business background, and I do, and I've learned a lot of lessons in business, and I've done a lot of negotiating. And the first thing I learned is a pretty good start to any negotiation. Spend a lot of time on the front end of any negotiation, figuring out what you agree on. And we've had that mentioned around the table quite a bit here. And we've talked about things we agree on. I think most of us agree on. Let's not shut down the government. So I totally support Senator Portman's bill on that. But let's talk about one big thing that I truly believe we all agree on. We share the same goal. I certainly want a prosperous America. I'm concerned about every American. I want every American to have the opportunity to build a good life for themselves and their family. I think everybody around this table, I think everybody serving in Congress shares that goal. So I'll be the first to admit that we have, a wide disparity of opinions in terms of how you achieve that goal. But as we move forward with these discussions, trying to deal and grapple with these enormous problems, let's not question each other's motives. It's just not helpful. It's not going to solve the problem. I think the other thing that, certainly my business background brings to the table is how do you solve a problem? I've solved a lot of problems in manufacturing. You always go to the root cause. But there's just a process that you go through to solve a problem that works. And almost any problem-solving process starts with the first thing is admitting you have a problem. And then that's followed almost immediately by defining it properly. And one of the things I'd like to do in hopefully open hearings in this process is let's define that problem. In negotiating, for example, if you've got a seller of a business on one side of the table with one set of books and me being the buyer on the other set, wildly different. I'll guarantee you will never come to a successful negotiation. You actually have to have an agreed upon audited set of books. So I would argue that we're not dealing with a 10-year budget problem here. We're really dealing with a 30-year demographic baby boom generation retiring problem. Because if we just deal with a 10-year problem, we are dramatically understating the size of the problem. And so, I just couldn't resist. I've got a big screen TV here. I've got to throw a couple charts on here. I think I have some time. Here's the CBO's latest long-term projection. Over the next 3 decades, we are going to experience in the first decade a $6.3 trillion deficit. Second decade, $16.5 trillion. Third decade, $33.6 for a whopping total of $56 trillion. Now, in our discussions with the White House, we put together some projections as well. I came up with a $107 trillion deficit over the next 30 years. We can view that as a range. I don't care which number you pick. It's a big problem. It's one that needs to be addressed. The sooner the better. Next chart. I hear all the time that Social Security is solvent to the year 2033. Only because of the fiction of the Social Security Trust Fund, which I don't have time to get into. But here's the facts in terms of the cash deficit. The next decade, Social Security will pay out $1.1 trillion more in benefits than they're going to receive in terms of payroll tax. The second decade, $4 trillion. The third decade, $7.6 trillion for a whopping total over 30 years of a $12.7 trillion decade. I don't think any of us here in Washington can look the American people in the eye and honestly say that is a solvent program. It needs to be saved for future generations. And by the way, Chairman Ryan can attest to this. It's not particularly popular for Republicans trying to reform these programs. It's not like, hey, we are insisting on this. We feel we have to do it. So we stop mortgaging our children's future. Last slide. Republicans want to increase revenue to the federal government. We agree with that goal. We just want to do it the old-fashioned way by growing our economy. And here's proof of how growing our economy is far more effective than punishing success. Since 2009, the low water mark in terms of revenue generation, we have increased revenue to the federal government by $1.2 trillion. That's the revenue increase. In just last year alone, we've added $672 billion per year of revenue. even with meager economic growth. That little yellow thing on top there, that's the $27 billion that was added because of the tax increase in the fiscal cliff deal. And that's an important point to make. So, yeah, we agree on economic growth. There's a lot of things we can agree on. Let's work together to solve these problems. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.